Welcome to the Magic and Miracles podcast, where we share and explore profound stories that bring science and spiritual together in the most illuminating and unexpected ways. A miracle is defined as something outside the realm of what you believe is possible for you. These stories will lift and enlighten, showing you that anything is possible. I am your host, Nicole Majik. Join me as we dive into real-life extraordinary stories that will captivate your curiosity, shift your mindset, and bring healing to your soul. From real-life angels to the strange and paranormal, get ready to embark on a new, inspiring journey with each episode that prove magic and miracles happen every day. All right, everyone, grab your tissues and get ready to be brought through a whole array of emotions of inspiration, compassion, empathy, and miracles with our guide today. Ed Rossman has been involved with libraries and broadcasting since 1980, before his battle with stage 4 throat cancer. After winning the battle and surviving cancer, he retired in 2018 from the Shaker Heights Public Library in Ohio. His latest book is A Guy's Guide to Throat Cancer, Do's and Don'ts for Recovery, where he guides the reader through the toughness of the recovery process and how to go through the bad days. He's also the author of Castles Against Ignorance, How to Make Libraries Great Educational Environments, and 40 plus new revenue sources for libraries and nonprofits, published by the American Library Association. What we will hear next is Ed's story of his battle with cancer, unexpected challenges along the way, and losses as well during that time, as well as the wins coming through to the other side. A truly inspirational story that brings awakening, healing, truth, and guidance in the most profound ways. Welcome, Ed. It's so great to have you here today.
Thanks, Nicole. I really appreciate this opportunity to share my story.
Such a wonderful story, and we're glad that you're here today with us all.
So am I.
How common is throat cancer? Because you don't hear a lot about it. And is it more common among men than women?
Thanks. There's a American Cancer Institute says there's about 50 to 51 cases, 1,000 cases a year with throat cancer. Some of the famous people, Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan, Michael Douglas, the actor, and just last May, Edward James Olmos, the lieutenant in Miami Vice, he said he had throat cancer over the last year. It was a very tough battle for him. And the rate is, they say it's a 80-20 survival rate, but some of the more famous people and some of the people I know, it's more like 50-50. There's two famous Eddies, Eddie Van Halen and Eddie Money, who had throat cancer, and they did not survive it. And, you know, could have top-notch treatments, and that is just the luck of the draw. So basically it can be caused by either smoking or sometimes the HPV virus gets down into the throat. That's why there's a big push now for inoculation, vaccinations for younger people, especially for the HPV virus. And I'd be recommending that. I know people are over-vaccinated, it seems, these days, especially after COVID. But still, this is one that's necessary. There's no other markers. There's no way. I was carrying the virus in me, the doctor said, probably for maybe 10, 15 years. And
wow.
It's just like, you know, it's just a long-term kind of thing. That's why it's good to get vaccinated against that virus early. There's no markers for it. There's no markers in women generally when they when they have that. And then that leads to a variety of issues for them. So yeah, it's a really under the radar kind of disease, but it does affect a lot of people. A lot of smokers get it. I remember an uncle had a voice box. He had his larynx taken out and talked with that. And thank God that didn't happen to me. My doctors were all very nice and very good. And I really have a lot of empathy for those people, because people in the medical profession doing the radiology and the chemotherapy, you know, they see tough battles every day. And sometimes the people don't win. So they've got, I've always got my thoughts and prayers going out to those folks there for the jobs that they do.
Yeah, absolutely. The jobs are tough out there because there's just so much. And I recently had surgery and I was sitting around waiting, and I was looking around saying, you guys are all taking care of all of us, and who takes care of you?
Yeah,
Right? Um, so let's dive right in. Can you tell us your story, how this came about, and then what happened through that whole battle that you faced?
sure. In 2017, that was a year we had just lost our mom at the beginning of the year, and then my younger sister, developed a brain tumor. In we didn't discover it until about October. She had been, they thought it might be a kidney issue. She was getting more and more disoriented and couldn't move. So we had to shuttle her around to a lot of different nursing homes and hospitals for different diagnoses. They checked out the kidneys, they checked out a variety of things, but they never checked out the brain. And one Saturday night, I'll never forget it. But Betty was just kind of like delirious in her bed, and I turned to the doctor and I said, "Have they done a brain scan on her? Maybe she fell down and got a concussion. We don't even know." And the doctor looked at her, "No, no, she's never had that yet." I said, "Well, can you do that? Because, it's obviously something's wrong upstairs." And they did. They called me Sunday morning and said, "Your sister's got a brain tumor. We have to rearrange things and, like, a whole different type of therapy and treatments now." So I said, "Okay." That was in October. And then on November 3rd, I'll never forget it. I had just shaven off. I had a beard and I had just shaven it off. And this was only a week or two later. And I noticed a lump and I said, "Wow, I've got muscles on my neck. I forgot about those, man. I never knew I was so muscular." And I said, "Wait a second. Why is the muscle only on one side of my neck and not the other side?" So I was afraid I had swollen glands. And because Betty had a lower immune system, I didn't want to go in. I was her main caretaker and didn't want to, like, expose her to anything that's going to complicate things. So I went into my doctor as soon as I could, and he thought it was swollen glands at first, but then he, thank God, went for another second opinion, and they said, "No, we should get you a CAT scan." And then we found out, and they recommended me to an ear, nose, and throat guy. And sure enough, it was cancer. It was a tumor that was growing on the side of my neck. I had surgery on November 30th, and they did a biopsy and said, "Yeah, we got the tumor out okay, but it's a little deeper than that. So you're going to have to go through the full regime of cancer treatments, chemotherapy, and radiation." And I said, "Well, how soon do we have to do that?" They said, "As soon as possible, Ed. How soon do you want to make sure you're going to live?" And I said, "Well, we got things going on in my family too. You know that." So Betty was on her last stages then, and she ended up passing away on December 30th of 2017. And I took care of estate funeral and the estate things and various other things, and started my treatments around January 18th. And I did go for a second opinion, and they said it was a big contrast. We have here in Cleveland, we're blessed with two really big hospital systems, and I went to the competition, and they said, "Okay, Ed, yeah, you do. We'd recommend everything that they're doing, except they did not want to put in a peg tube into my chest because I was going to be hard. It was going to be hard for me to swallow,
Mm.
and a port where I could get the chemotherapy easier." And so I said, "Okay, well, I'm going with the guys who want to give me a port and peg tube because it'll make my treatments, I think, a little bit easier." And they did. So around January 18th, I had surgeries for those. And then January 21st or so, I started my first chemotherapy. I had 3 bouts of chemo with a drug called cisplatin, like radioactive plutonium is something nasty. And then also I had 45 rounds of radiation over the course of 5 days a week. That
Are you
did burn out
really?
my throat. Huh?
Have you acquired any superpowers yet?
I wish. I wish. No, actually, they burned out my salivary glands, which are still 5 years later have not really come back. And the taste buds, I tell people I have the taste buds of a 5-year-old. So don't give me any jalapenos mixed in with your salad or anything like that. I used
Oh,
to like spicy food. I used to love, grilled food. So it's at the beginning of we're recording this here at the beginning of the summer, almost midsummer. And I've only barbecued once or twice. By now, I would have barbecued at least half a dozen times. But the taste of barbecued food even really doesn't appeal to me to that much anymore. It's more like texture. One of the nurses says, you're going to enjoy the texture of things, not the taste. So if it's a nice juicy steak, or like, a good flavorful pasta salad with a lot of mayonnaise or Miracle Whip, whatever makes it juicy. Yeah, I like that. But the actual taste, it's tough. But I have worse. It could have been much worse for me. So I'm not regretting that at all. And if that's what they had to do, that's what they had to do. And while I was sick, though, there was an organization called CaringBridge, and CaringBridge is it's a platform where if you just have email, you could sign up for it for free. I could start a page for free for myself. And my supervisor at the library told me she knew the problems we had with Betty, never knowing where to tell people where she was, where they can mail a get well card, go visit her after work, etc. So she said, you should set yourself up on CaringBridge. So I did. I started a page on CaringBridge, and I put journal entries in significant time, 2 or 3 times a week, basically letting people know what my status was, what my update was. And you could have music videos you can upload as a patient. And what I did was I'd have music videos that were fun and inspiring. All the entries I made, because we had just lost Betty, I didn't want anyone to think I was going to be next. So I was always very upbeat. And one day there's a band called AC/DC, and they have a song called Thunderstruck. You hear it a lot at football games, and that thunder. They had a military montage video of the song with a video of cannons blowing off and jet planes striking tanks and all this other stuff. And one day I posted that video and I said, I hope this radiation is doing this to my cancer cells. And one of my librarian friends, Audrey, said, oh, Ed, you're such a guy. And later on, when I went back to work, people told me how much they were going to miss me posting to CaringBridge, because it was always a fun read. And I said, okay, well, I was going to print it off as a long PDF, but instead I made it into the book, A Guy's Guide to Throat Cancer, Do's and Don'ts for Recovery. So it's got the things that I discovered that were good and things that I screwed up on that people shouldn't do.
What a great gift to come out of that, one of them anyway, right? And it's super important about establishing and maintaining your support system, and the fact that you were able to keep in touch with everyone and obviously inspire everyone else around you while you're going through all this stuff. I think that's definitely a superpower that you gained, right? Doesn't have to be due to the radiation and, slinging webs out of your hands or whatever.
Yeah. You were talking a few weeks ago about asking and receiving without shame. And one of the things CaringBridge is good for is to unite, not hide behind, wrap yourself in a fetal position in your house, is to get out there, let people know what's going on, if they want to, and they send out encouragement. They say, I had a lot, every journal entry in my book has a couple of comments from the people. I had 60, 70 people who were following me during the 4 months, and they were all very positive and very helpful. And I would repeat things that I was learning, like some of the dudes was saying, I'm calling things different, not difficult. Eating is different, as opposed to eating's difficult. Taking a shower is different. Taking a shower is difficult. You could see the difference of the words. So I would talk about that in my journal entries, that, and saying this week. People would ask me, oh, how's it going? And I said, well, this week I was able to eat Jell-O, and I can't do mashed potatoes yet, not now, but this week I can do this. This week I can do that. And those different types of phrases, are important, and they were important for me to reflect on when I was going through it, and then also to share those with people to let them know that, there's different ways you can approach this thing. And CaringBridge journaling, I think, is very good, and it eliminates that thing of being asking and receiving without shame.
Amen on that, because it's very important to be able to be in that space. And shame is a crazy thing in so many people's lives, and getting past that point is really important. How did you find the strength to do these daily journal entries, maintain that while you just suffered great loss. Tell me about the emotional side of things through losing your sister, finding out you had cancer, going through the surgery and chemo and all of this stuff, and still maintaining this, enlightened and lighthearted aspect, a very aware consciousness.
Well, one of the main things was this was going through the Lenten season. It started in January. My treatments went through April, May. And I had a book called The Word Among Us, which was daily mass readings for the masses. And I myself imposed, not isolation because of my weakened immune system. Couldn't go to work, couldn't go to church, was staying in my house. So I read that every day. And there were phrases from Bible verses from Job and various other people which were inspiring to me. And then of course, my first tendency was not to worry my family and friends and various other people who were afraid that I was thinking more about them. So I was a little bit more motivated by the guy thing, I guess. Maybe not, but it's one of those things where I wanted to protect them from any excess worry. So I wasn't being cavalier about it, but I was just straightforward, honest, letting them know what's going on, but taking a good attitude, a can-do attitude. For strength, I was always careful with my nutrition. I was very detail oriented on what I was taking through my peg tube. I tried to have enough water, but that sometimes, because I got fatigued in that, I'd lose track. But I started keeping a daily log, kind of like a captain's log on Star Trek. And I said, okay, now I did this, now I did that. And I was measuring how much fluid intake I was taking in. And that was helpful, keeping strength up through trying to get as much sleep as I could. I was almost happy that it was happening during the NCAAs, where the basketball tournament. I'd never been able to watch the whole tournament before. And I was rubbing my hand, oh, great, I'll be off work. I'll be able to watch them all day after I get home from treatments. Wrong. I get home from treatments and I was ready. I'd start watching basketball games. I'd fall asleep and I'd wake up 2 hours later. Who won? It's just, I might as well have been at work. But those help too. And they always have for those tournaments. Watching TV, it could be a waste of time. You got to invest your time when you're sick into things that are going to get you more up. And so I stayed away from cable news, but I would watch sports because they usually have good human interest stories about the dedication and perseverance some of the athletes have, a lot of the athletes have at that level. And those things did good. And then music, like I said, music was always a big thing. The worst chore I had was cleaning the peg tube daily. They wanted you to take it out of yourself, clean it up with liquid, and then paste it back onto yourself. Yuck. And what I did was I had a favorite song called Time Has Come Today by the Chambers Brothers. And I played that through YouTube. There was an extended version that was 14 minutes long. And I really liked that. And it was about 14 minutes to get this chore done. So every day around 6 o'clock, after I did my protein thing into the peg tube and letting it settle for a little bit, okay, take it out, almost like brushing your teeth. And took it out and I played Time Has Come Today. And that was one of my more fun things to do. It became music to me it was a distractor and a motivator. And I still say that even beyond like my cancer treatments. If I've got a chore I have to do, paying bills or whatever, there's a great old time station here, Wixie 1260 online. It's songs, one hit wonders from the 60s and 70s. I grew up listening to the original radio station. And they're off the air now, but the engineers got together and kept all the tapes. So they've got all the commercials and all sorts of stuff. And, I listen to that because it's upbeat music. It's fun. It reminds me of my youth. And I do that when I'm doing stuff around the house that I don't like to do. And when I was cleaning my peg tube, Chambers Brothers were, if I didn't have them, I don't know what I'd be doing. I probably would have gotten another infection or something like that. So music is, like I said, it could be a good distractor. Taking my mind off of this crappy chore, and a motivator. to make me do it, to don't forget to do it.
Yeah, we have a whole episode on music and under the piano with Craig Addy, and like the healing elements of music. It's just music speaks to our soul in ways in which words cannot. And especially when we have no words to express ourselves, either within ourselves or to other people, that music brings a lot of healing. So that's not surprising to me at all, because that music for you was a way in which to bring inspiration, motivation, healing, uplifting energy, giving you more of that energy to physically do things, right?
Yes.
That is huge. So I remember you mentioning before that you encourage people to create a playlist, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Whenever I hear anybody now getting into cancer situations or recovering from a stroke or anything like that, try and make a mixtape of your favorite songs, your motivating songs, whether it's Bruce Springsteen, Mozart, whatever, it doesn't matter
AC/DC.
as long as it's important to you. Yeah. Pink, did you say?
I said AC/DC. Oh, Pink is a good one too. Yes.
Uh-huh. Yeah, whoever, something good that'll keep your mind off of your sickness or your dilemma, whatever you're going through. And yeah, I've been doing that since, I don't want to date myself, but back in the days of 8 tracks, when we could finally control the medium and put music down on tape that we wanted, not just depend on the 45s and the albums that were coming out from the record companies. So
Right.
yeah, it was that's a major thing to do. And that's one of the tips that I recommend for people. Absolutely.
That is a great tip. And another tip I'm going to ask of you is that you say that surviving cancer takes more than science and medicine. Can you share what else can make a difference to people out there that may kind of feel a little bit lost?
Sure. What I always there's 3 main things that I've learned that after looking back on my reading and reflecting about it, which is what's good about journaling, to give you time for reflection afterwards. There's 3 main things. It's discipline, strength, and attitude. And all those, I think, are important, just as important as pouring. You could pour medicines down yourself all the time, but if you don't have the discipline to do that, that's like, you've got to be able to be disciplined, to be able to write down what you need to do, to be able to. Strength is important as far as like, keeping up your energy level and asking for help. The people who are around you, the CaringBridge people and various others. Um, Man wasn't necessarily like, going to thrive at all if he would have stayed in a cave by himself, being a caveman. He had to join a tribe. And it's the tribe is where he learned how to do things, get better food, get better nutrition. Teamwork builds up your energy. So if you have, rather than going it alone, guys can be, and this was one of the reasons why I wrote the book, Guy's Guide to Throat Cancer, because guys can be stoic, independent. They have a high tolerance of pain, which is fine, but you can't necessarily stay by yourself. You have to be able to come out of yourself and link up with other people in order to go through something as bad as cancer. And the strength is one of the things is like, it's important to do. You have to have also the strength to be able to write down questions for your doctors. That's a major thing. One of the things I did, I brainstormed. I used the old journalistic who, what, when, where, how, and why, preparing questions for the doctors, because doctors are busy. They'll come in, they'll talk to you for 10 minutes, say, we're going to do this, that, and the other thing. Wait a second. Who's going to be administering this? Why do we have to do this again? How is this going to be done? When's the timing? All those different types of things to engage them, to get them to talk. Afterwards, people have told me, medical people said, we like it when people are engaged like that, when you ask questions. So you could build up your own knowledge so that you can help combat this disease better, and you know what to look for and know what to prepare for. And you just go through it a lot easier. There were all sorts of different types of situations where they're throwing things at both me, and I did that with my sister as well, as far as like trying to diagnose what kind of a plan we were going to do and how we were going to approach different types of things. So you got to have energy in order to make those questions in order to get the gumption to ask those questions, especially the hard ones. The hard ones, which might be like, is this really terminal? Is this what are the survival rates? What's going to be the impact on me afterwards? Those are the different types that need strength, both physical strength and internal strength. And that's where, going back to the Word Among Us, the various readings that I read about from the books of Joshua, do not be fearful, be courageous. Those different types of things came out. I have a Facebook page where one of my most biggest posts in Guy's Guide to Cancer Facebook page was from the book of Isaiah, chapter 7, verse 9. If you don't stand firm in your faith, you won't stand at all. So you still have to have a lot of faith. That had 100,000 views, shared 2,000 times. And I'm really glad I was able to get that message out there. And people need that. I said, and standing up, you got to stand up for yourself, ask those questions, and then just believe you're going to get through.
Yeah, and that's the faith in God and faith in yourself, right?
Yes.
The dual faith to get through the thing. So discipline, strength,
and attitude. And attitude goes back to, once again, the your body language. Having good body language. Look at the people who come in to visit you. Look them in the eye. The doctors. The attitude of, things are different, not difficult. The body language, the words that you use, those are all very important. And the different types of things that you can like to read up on and keep your mind positive. A positive mental attitude will be able to break you through through any kind of disease. And basically for attitude, it's also equals faith. You got to be hopeful. And so I read a lot of scripture, and there was a bar in Cleveland called Sokolowski's. It was an old Polish bar established in 1923. It would have been 100 years old if they would have been able to survive cancer, but it was a family-run place, and it didn't work out too well for them, unfortunately. But I met the owner once, and he had a nice little prayer on the back of his card, and I used that prayer almost every day, and I read it when I was retired, and I passed it on to people when I worked at the library. Whenever anyone retired, I said, basically, here's his prayer: Lord, keep me working, keep me fit. At windows I don't want to sit, watching the world hurrying by. Lord, keep me busy until I die. So keeping busy, keeping active, not withdrawing, all those things are very positive.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that, Ed. And I've heard you say that we're all in God's waiting room. What does it mean to be in God's waiting room?
Well, when you were talking about asking and receiving with unconditional love, so love towards other people, and what I was talking about in the book, Guy's Guide, is when you're in a waiting room. I was in a waiting room with people who looked like they were on the verge of death, and they looked like it. I mean, they had given up, but you could see it in their eyes. And there are other people who are frightened, people waiting around. Chemo waiting rooms and radiation treatment waiting rooms are way different than going to your regular doctor. I mean, you got some people who are really up against it, and we're all sharing the same battle, but people bring it on differently. So I talk about being a gentleman, making sure people have, if they need seats, getting up, even standing on your own if there's a family who comes in with young children and stuff like that. Giving people space, being basically a giving person. If they look like they're alone, you can ask them, are you waiting for somebody? And they'll say, yeah, my husband's in there or whatever. So helping them engage, relieve them stress from talking a little bit. Oh, the wind just closed my door. Anyway, the being a good person, we're all in God's waiting room. So we should be patient. We should be giving. You can't get upset if you're waiting around for like 40 minutes past when your time was supposed to be. You don't let that affect you. You just take it in stride And then from there, like, you proceed, you go through that door. We'll be going through that door, all of us in our lives someday or another. So what we have to do is remind ourselves that, yeah, we're in God's waiting room right now, whether or not we're stuck in traffic or at a store in some line, airport line. Those are the different types of, that's an attitude which I've brought out of my cancer experience and try to live by every day.
It goes along with one of my mantras, all in divine timing.
Yeah.
Everything happens in divine timing.
Mhm.
So this has been phenomenal, Ed. I love the story, and I love how all of the insights that you've had along the way, even through like piling and piling and piling on top of you, the struggles, the challenges, and none of it got you down. And you actually elevated other people through that entire process. And, another thing that I say is we all elevate each other.
Mhm.
And when we uplift others, that uplifts us, they uplift us. We just keep going upwards into this, heightened realms. What other resources are available to people going through this, aside from if you want this inspiration, if you want the information, go get Ed's book. And that is going to be in the description, but that book, Guy's Guide to Throat Cancer, Do's and Don'ts for Recovery. So go check that out. But tell us about any other resources, and also how can people get a hold of you or connect with you or see more of your inspiration? I know that you have a great Instagram account that's inspiring and motivational. So where can people tap into Ed Rossman?
Ed Rossman, believe it or not, does not have a website yet. So the best way to reach me, if you're a Facebook person, you could do go to my Facebook. Both the Facebook and Instagram pages share the same side logo, Guy's Guide to Throat Cancer. And I update each 3 times a week with different scripture readings, as well as like PSAs of different types of things that are going on in the cancer world that people might be interested in, or musical things, which I thought, like, were inspiring at the time. This podcast eventually will be on there. So that's one thing. I'm also a member of the Head and Neck Cancer Alliance, hnca.org. And they are a great organization for people who have head and neck cancer, to be able to see different webinars. You offer webinars every week. They got a whole library of stuff on everything from like losing your taste buds to battling against sleep and fatigue, and the clinical studies on new things for patients who are going through things right now. There's already a change in the medicines and some of the treatments that they've done since when I had it 5 years ago. Thank goodness, like, the medical progress is progressing. My book is still good as far as explaining what's going on and what the processes were. For chemotherapy, I never knew that it was like an 8-hour thing of various medicines that they put into you. I always thought it was like, okay, you go in, you get a bag, and they set you up, and then you're out of there in a few hours feeling bad. No, they actually give you steroids so you walk out of there feeling good for a day. And then they make sure you get home, and then after that, a couple days later, it trails off. But nowadays, it might have even more different types of things. I hear there's more edible types of things for chemotherapy that I know some people are doing. So Head and Neck Cancer Alliance, that's another good source. American Cancer Society, of course. But as far as anything else goes, if they want to reach me, they could direct message me with the Facebook page. And we're up to about almost 1,800, over 1,800 now on the Facebook page. So, join the club. But it's good for not only patients, but also for caregivers. I think what I offer is a lot of good suggestions for people who they might not have cancer, but they're taking care of somebody who is. And that person, if it's a guy like I described, might be a little stoic and a little tough, but you can tell them, oh, he's got stories in there about Tom Brady, how Tom Brady swore that, like, the reason he played so long was because of hydration, and why he wanted to keep drinking as much water as he did. And I got stories from there, Lou Holtz, various other sports figures, various other music videos. other than AC/DC and the Chambers Brothers. I use about 15 different music videos. They can help start their own inspirational mixtape through that. And one of these days I'll be working on getting my own website, but right now I've been working on just basically working with the book and working with my family. Some other members have medical issues, so I've been working with them as well. But eventually, somewhere down the line, I'll get on there, maybe even get my own podcast, and then I can have you as a guest. That'd be awesome.
Right. Yeah, I love all of this, and I love what you're doing, because touching the souls of everyone, whether you're going through something or you might be a caretaker of, it's really important as a caretaker to even understand, even remotely, what somebody is going through. And I think that's part of, in that caretaker mode, that we don't know all the time what somebody else is going through, and we feel like we have to guess because they're feeling so horribly. And then what do I do? And am I going to make it worse? And there's a lot of those what ifs, assumptions, expectations, responsibilities, and that caregiver gets weighed down too. I love that you are uplifting both sides, because that right there is all encompassing and just very magical and miraculous.
I met a musician once. He had nasal cancer behind his neck, and he was a harmonica player, and he had the same kind of treatments that I had, radiation and chemo, cisplatin. And he and his wife talked to me one time after one of his gigs, after he did get my book, and he said, this helped me realize that I'm not the only one who's going through this. Other guys have gone through this as well. And he said he read the book in like 2 days, because he was interested in the ending, how it was going to be in the later stages. And I think that was like really important. Right now, he's not fully recovered, but he's playing out at least 6 times this summer with harmonica. So when you figure how much breathing and all that stuff, he feels really like, glad that he was able to get through that okay. And him and his wife said, boy, we really liked your book. So they, I think it'll be good for the people to be able to take a look at how it's going. And don't forget to even ask for it at your public library. It could be out there. You might be able to pick it up there, and if not, ask them for it. And I've been trying to do that more and more. I came out right at the beginning of COVID, and all the libraries were shut down for about 3 or 4 months. And so that made it. And then they had a big backlog of books. So it's been a challenge. Feel free to ask for it at your local library. Support your local libraries.
I've actually mentioned that on other podcasts where I have had authors on, where if you love the book and you're not willing to let yours go, right, maybe it's worth purchasing another one and donating it to the library, because you never know whose angel you are going to be through something like that.
That's right.
Yeah. So thank you, Ed, for this inspiring and motivational story. Everybody in the comments, please let us know what you loved most, or any questions that you might have as well moving forward. And go ahead in that description and find the links to go ahead and follow Ed in all of his areas on Facebook and Instagram. And we will see you on the next episode of Magic and Miracles. Thanks, Ed, so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for the Magic and Miracles podcast, where everyday folks like you share their life-changing stories. The world wants to hear your extraordinary story, so is it about time you tell it? You might just end up being someone else's miracle waiting to happen. If you would like to be a guest on the show, please submit your application for consideration. If you would like to nominate a guest or submit a personal story to be read on the show, please contact us via email. In the meantime, enjoy the journey. You never know when you will experience a miracle that will change your life forever, or if you will become someone else's real-life angel. Goodbye for now, and see you on the next episode of Magic and Miracles, the podcast with wings.